Hey everybody, this is Craig Garber. Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar. We're the kick-ass rock and roller today with Misha Mansoor, the founder and lead guitar player for Periphery. Before we go on, I just want to thank Mike Dawes for hooking Misha and I up. So thank you, Mike. Quick bio on Misha, founder and lead guitarist of progressive metal band Periphery. As I said, part of the studio project Haunted Shores and the hardcore punk project Snuggles. His career as a producer started when he produced and co-wrote the Animals as Leaders self-titled album. And since then, he's also produced bands such as Veil of Maya, Born of Osiris, Being, and Stray from the Path. He's Periphery's primary producer, having produced, mixed, and mastered their debut album, co-produced each subsequent release. He's got his own signature Jackson guitars and PV amp and pickups and drum loops and he is currently building a real estate empire in every major city in the United States of America and worldwide.
We're not supposed to talk about that yet.
With Periphery, Misha's released 6 LPs and 2 EPs. He's also made records with 2 other projects, as I said, Haunted Shores and also 4 Seconds Ago, and produced or co-written songs with Animals as Leaders and several other bands. He contributed to the Halo 2 Anniversary original soundtrack and the Destiny Rise of Iron original soundtrack. Dude, thank you, man. You get your hands full.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. And yeah, thanks to Mike for hooking us up. Mike's a good buddy.
Good guy, really good. For sure, man. Really hey, man, what was the first piece of music, if you remember, that really knocked you off your feet?
Oh, I remember.
What was
it? Funny enough, so I'm the oldest. Like, I got a brother and sister. I'm the oldest, so I didn't really have like an older sibling to show me the ropes. That was my job. And my parents didn't really listen to, quote unquote modern music. So we had a friend visiting from Australia when I was like 12 or 13 or something like that. And he showed me Nirvana. And he showed me Smells Like Teen Spirit. I was like, what is this? This is sick, and I was just like, I think there was something in that moment. It's like, I need to find more music like this. And then also, like, that's guitar. I need to like have a guitar that sounds like that. Like, I didn't understand, the beginning goes from clean to distorted guitar.
Yeah.
I didn't understand what that was. I was like, is he just like strumming the guitar differently or something? Like,
that's cool.
I was like, I need to crack this code. And like, I was like, I want to play. I'd always wanted to play drums and guitar, especially drums. Actually, growing up, parents were completely against that. They're like, you're going to go deaf. We're going to go deaf. But I think in that moment, it was pretty solidified. It's like, I need to find a way to get a guitar and a drum set right now.
And how did you get them to sign off on it?
Well, I'm Jewish. And for my bar mitzvah, I got a bunch of money, and I spent all of that on a guitar and a drum set.
There you go.
Pretty close, because that's like when you're 13. So it was like right around that time. It was pretty good timing. So,
what guitar did you buy?
Oh man. Almost. I actually still have this guitar, believe it or not. I don't know what's wrong with me. It was a $99 BC Rich Mockingbird that they had at Guitar Center. And it was a Tama. Below that, it was like the cheapo. I forget what it's called. But it was like, it was like a $600 drum set.
It's weird. Your audio's coming in and out.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. It's really weird.
Wait, but can you hear me now?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
We're good. We're good.
Yeah, it's really strange.
Uh-oh.
But you know what? It's good that you have your early guitar, because every player I ask, and I don't ask this to every player, but if I say what was your first guitar, everybody that doesn't have it says, man, I really regret it. I traded it up for X, or I traded, you know what I'm saying? And
yeah. I don't think I could do this, because this was, to be honest, it's such a piece of shit. Like, I don't think I'll get it. Again, it was like it was a $99 guitar, and it came with like a practice amp.
With a practice amp for $99.
I don't know if it did actually, but it was. I remember it being like $99, which in hindsight, I'm like, how can a guitar cost that little? Like, I don't know.
Well, it's 20 years ago. It's probably like $240 now.
That's true. That's true. That's a good point. But
but still, $240 is not a great.
It was, but it's not a good guitar by any means. Ended up putting a Seymour Duncan Dimebucker in it because I thought that would make it better. It did not make it better. and it just sits in a case somewhere. Like, yeah, I guess it's sentimental, but it sits in a case at my parents' place, so it doesn't take space in my place. So,
That's awesome, man.
you know, I
Good,
care about it. So I dumped it on them.
good story, man. That's cool. What was your first big break in the music business?
I'm going to give a controversial answer. I don't really think there's such a thing, or at least in our career, there's never been a big break. I think people want this big break story, and the truth is, it's a lot of really little things. And even the things that seem like big breaks are very small. Like one could say, oh, when you got an offer to open for Dream Theater, but although that was really cool as a personal goal, it did help a little bit in Europe. It didn't help as much as you would think. It wasn't like, oh, now everything's different.
Yeah.
There aren't really these moments. A big break is like where I would consider like, oh, after this moment, everything changed.
Yes.
Like fundamentally in some significant fashion. I would say that the story of Periphery has been slow and steady and a lot of very small things. And even if they seem like they're big breaks, the actual net result is something very small, but significant, right? And all those little things just add up to something that eventually becomes bigger. So it's been this snowball effect, this slowly rolling snowball effect. But I can't identify any one thing that is just so substantial that it was like, oh, wow, like now things are going to change,
That is actually, as a guy coming from the business world, more of the norm.
Yeah.
Everybody's always thinking, I mean, on my experience has found it's not one huge thing. It's a series of small steps, but if you keep plodding away, 1% a month, 12% a year, blah, 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 24% over 2 years, it's a big number.
Yeah.
Something like that. So yeah, I'm not surprised that you said that. And I understand it 100%. Some guy, a couple people said, Craig, what was the one guest you had on your show that really changed things? I'm like, I'm waiting for him.
Right.
I'd love that. It would be, I had Steve Vai on and that shit doubled overnight, and I had Steve Vai on and it was good growth, but it's nothing, it's
in the grand scheme, it's a good thing. And it's a moment, but it's not like, oh, now we're the biggest thing ever. Right.
Right now, right. We're on the tips of everyone's tongue. Right. Exactly. Nothing like that. So I totally appreciate that, man. 3 Dot Recordings. That's a record label that you guys all set up, and all the Periphery releases are on there. First of all, props to you for setting that up. I think, you're always better off in today's day and age taking things into your own hands, for sure. But for artists and players thinking about setting up their own label, maybe you could talk about what are the upsides to doing this and what are the challenges?
So yeah, just to be clear, we just set it up, so only our last release is currently on there.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you.
The rest of the catalog will be joining shortly, but currently it's just Periphery 4 Hail Stan. I'd say so. We were signed with Sumerian Records, and we kind of waited a long time and told a lot of record labels no for a lot of years because I knew exactly the kind of deal I wanted to get, and every label was basically like, "You're not going to get that deal." And eventually, we got that deal from Sumerian, which was nice of them, and I think we did good work together. I really do think we did good work together. And after that deal was done, I mean, to be quite honest, like by the time we were working on our second album, we were already starting to talk about like, I think we could do our own label. But obviously we had to fulfill our contract. A lot of people don't understand that that's how it works. They think like we parted ways with Sumerian or whatever. It's like, no, our contract was up, and then, we can resign or we can do whatever we want. We're free agents.
Yeah, you're like an athlete.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. So we were unrestricted free agents.
Good for you, man.
Whatever we want. So that was one of the options, is to start your own label. And that's something that we've been thinking about since Periphery too. The challenges are that it's a lot of work. It's a lot more work than you'd realize. And I really have to thank our manager, Wayne, for, he helps us manage the label. He does so much of the work with that. If we didn't have someone like him on the team, I don't know that we'd be able to run the label at all, because he's such an integral part of it. And it's something that we were discussing with him, but we need someone like that, like kind of an operator in a sense, as someone he's got experience with a label. He worked at labels in the past, so he knows what he's doing. And we just kind of felt like with him, we had the right team and the right vision. We all have the same goal for the label, which is labels have a very different role these days from when we started. So it's the kind of thing where, like, I think what we offer or what we want is relevant to 2019 in the streaming world. But yeah, with the label's role being so different nowadays, a lot of other labels that have had to sort of tweak their business models or try to survive, when there's a lot less money and, they maybe have too much overhead and too much staff, They have to try to make ends meet. Like, we can run a very lean label. And that's sort of the business model. They're sort of like, look at the market as it is and how does it work. And also, it's kind of a passion project for us. Like, we each have our various sources of income, and we each have pretty good lives. So this can be more of a passion project rather than someone who's like, okay, this is my job, is the label, and it has to be solvent and it has to make money, because otherwise I don't eat. So we're in kind of a unique position where we can offer like pretty aggressive deals. And it's also a good vessel for us to put out our own records and our side projects. And, it's just kind of nice to have it and have full control. And, to sum it up, like, the positives are, I think we've always had collectively a very clear vision of what we want the band to be and what we want to do. And the more control that we've had over every aspect, the better it seemed to work out for us. So this is just another thing where we have full control. Like, the way that we released Periphery 4 and launch it, just everything about that was the first time where everyone on the team was just like, yes, we nailed this, because we had full control over everything. So, those are definitely the positives. If you have that vision, it can be very beneficial.
So if it's not like if it's not like violating the Kentucky Fried Chicken recipe, can you, when you say the way you launched Periphery 4, what were you guys able to do that having control of the process helped?
So, like, even just basic things like pre-orders, assets, artwork, everything, getting everything together, just having a tight team. Because when you're dealing with a label, it's like a middleman to a lot of the other things. So and then you know how it is, like, deadlines get missed, people are lazy, or people or whatever. I don't know what, but it's just one less group of people to worry about. It was just a tight operation. Everyone that needed to get stuff done was someone on our team.
Yeah, everybody had a vested interest.
Yes, and it got done. It was just a tight operation. And I mean, if you're a business owner, you understand how much of a benefit just that can be. Same money, same plan, same approach. But then also Wayne, our manager, like, he's just brilliant. He's a brilliant guy. I can't thank that dude enough for the work. He puts a lot of hard work into our band and into everything. And that dude just put such a tight release strategy. Everything had a purpose, everything in its right place. And we think very similarly. We want to put the work in, but we want to be efficient. Yeah, so it was a very efficient plan. So actually, like the whole album and the marketing plan came in way under budget.
That's great.
But the numbers we did were way over our estimates. And we always estimate very conservatively, because I like pleasant surprises.
Oh, hell yeah.
So it was just one of those things, and then the album charted, I think, better than any other album that we've done. Obviously sales are down because sales are down across the board, and streaming is the new thing. But I think it charted better than any other album we've done. And it was just kind of showing that, like, oh yeah, you put the work in. Like, we had an idea of how to launch something, but then when you work with people that aren't directly on your team, things get lost in translation. And then when you have a tight team and everything gets done and you can oversee everything and you have control over everything and it works, it's just very gratifying, So it's just a tight operation.
That's cool. Congratulations. I'm glad you guys did that.
Oh, thanks, man.
You also have your own pedal company, Horizon Devices. What prompted you to set that up?
So that was just, again, these are all passion projects. It's, playing guitar, I have like way too many pedals. You might be able to see. I'm obsessed with pedals and gear and all that stuff. And there's something in our style of music to the uninitiated. I don't know how many people listen to metal or play metal, but basically for metal tones, you tune lower, and it's very difficult for low tuned and 7-string guitars to sort of sound tight with high gain amps. So a lot of people boost it with like a tube screamer style pedal, but I just wish that there was one that was more versatile, depending on the tuning, gauge of string. I just wanted to have a bit of versatility. So I basically went online and tried to find that pedal. I was like, no one makes this. So very long story short, it was like, well, maybe I should just make it. And we're tight with Dunlop, and we were able to work out a deal. I teamed up with my friends Brian and Maytab, and we basically started Horizon Devices, and we're like, well, let's see if we can sell any of these. Well, it turns out like a lot of other people felt the same way and wanted a pedal that could do this, because it was really necessity for me. I was just like, I'm kind of bummed I haven't been able to find a pedal that does it. I'm kind of surprised that no one cornered the market on it either, because it seems kind of obvious to me.
I'll tell you exactly why. That's not what they do.
Yeah.
No, seriously. It's like, from time to time, I've done certain things in real estate. And when I first got into doing some of it, I always used to think, man, first of all, I don't find homes, any property using realtors, but I always would wonder, why wouldn't all these realtors who have access do this? Because they make a lot more money. That's not what they do. They buy and sell homes and charge you a commission. And I learned that. And I was like, wow. So, it was like, I would think like you, like, why wouldn't you do that? That's not what they do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was also a very niche product. So I was like, maybe like we were concerned about even selling 500 of these to begin with. And we had a whole marketing plan to just like get 500 out of them out there. That was like months long, and we had all the content ready to go. And we did a pre-order thing. I think we sold 500 within the first few days.
That's awesome, man.
Okay, so like this is a thing, and that changed the scope of it. Again, when I say it was a passion project, it was just like, let's see what happens. And it kind of just turned into this thing, and it's like, okay, this is cool. Let's run with this and see where we can go. And Brian and Maytab are just brilliant when it comes to marketing and business. They handle that side, and we're able to take this. People say like, oh, you talk about luck or whatever in life, but I'm like, luck is like kind of something that gives you the opportunity, but then you can still squander it. I feel like those guys made the most of this opportunity with me. So, having a good team there. I mean, having a good team is really the most important thing.
Yeah.
In any successful venture I've had, it's always come down to just having the right people.
Where did you get so entrepreneurial? This is not a common thing for musicians.
I don't know. I have no idea.
Is either of your parents business owners or?
No. No. I mean, my dad's an economist, so he's good with money, but no, not.
Your dad's an actually economist?
Yeah, he's an economist.
That's like very heady stuff, man.
Yeah, it's very heady. It's heady and boring and complicated. But
it's really, I mean, if you're into it, I find
he knows how to stretch a dollar, when we were growing up, we lived beyond our means. We weren't we were all right. We were very house poor, but like my dad wanted to live in an area with a good school system for us. So they were living above their means, but so I grew up like thinking like if you didn't cut coupons or buy stuff on sale, like, oh, you must be a millionaire or something like that. but like, I maybe that kind of, there is some guilt there in spending money, like still buying something that's not on sale, like still kind of kills me inside a little bit. I don't know.
So funny.
But how Jewish of me, right? But
hey, you could say that. You could say whatever you want.
Well, but it's like, I don't know. I have a whole thing on this because I see people post like motivational things, like, I don't know, anything entrepreneurial. I'm like, dude, nobody who's entrepreneurial like looks at those. Like, they just go out there and they do their thing. So I don't know why. I was always good at sales. I always just liked that kind of stuff. Like, one of my favorite things when we were starting out was selling merch in the band. I loved selling. Can't do it anymore, but I always thought that was really fun. So I don't know, it just kind of came naturally to me. And, I'm not going to say I'm amazing at it, but it's something that I do find very enjoyable.
Oh,
So,
well, it's you're business minded because you've got multiple things going on, which is fantastic, and that's just really rare for there's a question that I sometimes ask is a version of like anything you wish you did different, and most of the time, 75% of the answer is I wish I had a better handle on the business end of stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that people don't talk about, and one of the biggest lies. And I get in a lot of trouble for saying this kind of stuff because, people always say like I'm a dream killer. But I've always been of the mindset that you're better off understanding the landscape, having a genuine understanding of what you're getting into, so that you can plan accordingly and strategize. Yeah. But people will tell you, and schools, especially like music schools, will tell you, oh, all you have to do is just practice and really want it. And it's like, no, that's what you do to get your foot in the door. That's what everybody does. If you're not doing, you're not even playing the game.
Sure.
So now you got your lottery ticket.
Yeah.
If you practice and you really, really want it. Like the guy who made it didn't make it because he wanted it a little more. He just had a better understanding of the business side. And there's so many guys I see like insanely talented musicians who struggle because they're artists and they don't really get that side. I mean, why would they get that side of it? I don't even know why I did. I think I'm just lucky that I did. It's not anything I did better or whatever. It's just how it looks to me. But then there's people who totally get the business side and you just see them just nailing it, absolutely nailing it. And it's just not talked about. It's sold as a completely different path. I've always told people there's a very simple path to getting into the music industry. It's not sexy and it's not what you think, but it works. And it worked for a very good friend of ours who worked for us. He started out as our merch guy, and now he's basically like musician royalty in a way, but it's just you work your way up. There's ways into this music industry that are not like sitting at home practicing your guitar and waiting for your big break. Like there are people who go out there and do merch for free, actually are out on the road and have a good attitude, are good to be around, and slowly work their way up, and who give a shit and try. If you have that drive, there are ways to do it. It's just not the way it's sold to people, I think.
Interesting. Well, whatever you're doing, man, congratulations and keep it up.
I'm gonna do my best, man.
Let's talk about your current record, Periphery 4, Hail Stan. First of all, how many people tell you, oh, I thought it was Hail Satan?
Well, that was kind of the point, I think.
Yeah, it's so funny. Let's talk about some of the songs I liked in it. Reptile, that was pretty intense.
Yeah, that song. So I love writing with the guys, and generally when we start, like Mark, Jake, and I, the three guitarists in the band, we'll meet up and just start getting ideas. I think there's moments where we're just ripe. We're like, we need to write, we need to start writing. And when I'm around those guys, I get so creative. Like they're my best friends in the whole world, and we have great writing chemistry. So it's just a good time. And what happens is that it's like riff diarrhea sometimes. It's just like, you're just like, all right, here we go. We've got all these riffs. And then that was compounded with the fact that like Mark was messing with this new tuning. And I don't know, like if you've had this experience, but sometimes like when you're playing with a new tuning, it just opens up all these ideas. So we were just playing around with this new tuning we hadn't played with before. And just the riffs and ideas were coming out. And before we knew it, we were just working at it. We don't try to write long songs. Funny enough, I think long songs are kind of stupid. Like, I think you should try to make your point as concisely as possible. But I'm not a good enough musician to like make that happen all the time. So sometimes we're just like, when the song's done, and sometimes you're like, this song is not done. Like, we have more to say. I see where this can go. And like, we were working on the song for like 3 or 4 days or something like that. And we're like, oh man, this song is long, and it was just us three guitarists. So the other guys in the band, they knew that we were working on stuff, but they had no idea what it was. And we had to kind of sell them on like, yeah, we wrote a song.
Look, guys, it's only 17 minutes. It'll be over.
It's just a long song. So we just didn't tell them. Because what we do is we normally do some sort of arrangement that like will show like how things could go, but we're not attached to it. And we'll show Matt, our drummer, we'll show Spencer, our singer, so that we can start, turning it into a real song. I remember for Spencer, the plan was to just get him over there and not say anything, get him really stoned, and just sit him in front of the computer.
I get him really stoned.
And I strategically made it so that you couldn't see any time markers or anything, so that like, and I remember he was just sitting there like halfway through a song, it's like the 8-minute mark or whatever. It's like, so song's pretty long. I'm like, yeah, I guess you could say that. Just trying to like.
Yeah, but when you're stoned, 17 minutes might seem like.
Oh man, he said it was like he said he thought he was losing his mind. Yeah, he was like, I can't tell if the song is longer, but I was like, we can't have him listen to this sober, because what we didn't want to happen was the guys be like, no, we're not doing the song this long. But like, yeah, I mean, in the end, like the guys were stoked. I think Spencer was really overwhelmed. I was like, dude, I will work with you. We'll make this happen. And we had a lot of fun working on that one. But I think it was just, we were ready to write. We were just itching to write. And that was the first thing we wrote for the album. And then we were like, it'd be kind of funny if this opened. Normally like when you do epic songs, and when we've done epic songs, they tend to be at the end.
Or like side one, the last song.
Let's just open this up with a long song, with our longest song ever. Why not? Like give me one reason why we should.
It's a pretty dark song, man. What's the backstory to that?
The lyrics, it's a fictional thing. I remember the working title was a Reptile Dysfunction. Got shortened to Reptile.
And Reptile Dysfunction?
A Reptile Dysfunction.
It's so funny.
Because we are still 5-year-olds. Spencer basically took that and he was like, I'm going to write this about a guy named Billy Badass who's fighting off reptilian overlords.
Okay.
It's just like a weird spacey adventure of this guy, Billy Badass. Yeah, I mean, if you know that and then you read the lyrics, it all kind of makes sense at that point.
Very cool. It's a good song, man. It's loads of cool stuff going on it, man. You guys did a lot of good
work. I'm really proud of that song. I'm really happy with how that one came out. Something people don't realize is you demo a song and then like you record it for real. But there's so much in the moment stuff that happens when you're recording that sometimes like the demo doesn't translate exactly, or the mix doesn't come out exactly right, and it's a case, we call it demoitis. It's actually kind of a problem. You get so attached to a version of something that when you hear the new version, it's not as good, or you're kind of disappointed. And it's happened with a lot of Periphery songs. There's nothing you can really do about it, sort of like re-recording it all over again or something crazy like that. So I was always worried with that song because I'm like, man, we have so much invested in it. But that song actually came out even cooler than the demo did. I was really, really happy with everything. Like that song is one of my most proud things I've done with the band.
Yeah, there's a lot of, it's pretty involved in there, man. You guys put a lot of work in that.
So that's a very special song for me.
Yeah, Garden in the Bones. It's like a very cool rock anthem.
That song is interesting. Like we always have like demos sitting around from other album sessions, and like that's one that was maybe a Periphery 3 or might have been even older. It was like something that Jake and I had written together. We only had a couple minutes of. We always sat with it and we're like, this is really cool. And what happens, these things you forget about them because we're always writing. And we'll like before we start an album, we'll always just kind of go through our Dropbox and like look at all the old ideas. And be like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. That was when that we were like, man, I totally forgot about like this has a lot of potential. The other thing is like Spencer, our singer, has to be inspired by it. And like I think in the past he was kind of like he wasn't really feeling that one. But then all of a sudden this time he was just like, I have some ideas. And him and I worked together a lot. We worked a lot on that song as well, like vocally. Like what we would do is we would go to his studio and basically take a microphone and just sing falsetto gibberish. Because I can't write lyrics to save my life, but I can write a melody line. And he's really good at writing melody lines too. So we're just bouncing them off of each other and like him going to the mic or me going to the mic and like badly singing falsetto gibberish just to get some like cadences.
Just to get a melody going, yeah.
Yeah, and then whisper screaming, and he so it sounds hilarious, but also knowing that like Spencer can just take that and just roll with it, and then we just let him do his own thing. So I was really happy with how that song came out. And, you know, it was kind of like we wrote the vocal melodies of that song probably, or the vocals to that song probably in like 20 minutes, you know. It was just like bam, 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 bam. It was so much fun.
Great tune. Really, it's got good hooks, man.
It's a fun one to play live too. So
and then you have like a bit of a metal ballad called Crush. And then the lyrics in there are like, the further we pull, the thread of shit unwinds. That was kind of deep. What was that? What's the backstory to that?
I don't know what the lyrics are about on that one. You have to ask Spencer. I forget what it is. I remember. Again, I'm not as involved with the lyrics, but that's actually a funny one. That's a good example of like what happens in this band. So with Periphery, we're always like, I always say it's very easy to write a Periphery song. If it sounds good, we're good. If it doesn't sound, we don't do it, or we fix it, you know, or whatever. But really, there's no rules on what it can be. It can be any style, and that was always the goal of the band, is just kind of scratch whatever itch we want to scratch. Crush was something I was just playing around with some synths one day. It's actually on my YouTube, like the demo of it. It's like 2 minutes long.
That's wild.
I was just playing around with it, just with some synths one day, and I was like, you know, I just got that going. I wanted something like kind of electronic and dark. And then, like, I guess Spencer had bought some new preamps or compressors or whatever, and he was just trying a new vocal chain out. And when he wants to try a new vocal chain, he'll just take something that one of us has done and just throw vocals over it. So he threw vocals over that, and we were like, this is kind of cool. Like, it's weird. Like, I don't know if this is Periphery or not or whatever. But then, you know, we kind of discussed it. It's like, dude, this could totally be a Periphery song, you know. And when we do an album, we do try to keep the vibe consistent. So although it is the outlier, like, it is a very dark song.
It is.
And the whole album's pretty dark. So we're like, it actually fits the mood kind of well. And it's just one of those things where it worked. That song was a real labor of love because there's a lot of electronic elements I wanted to sound right. That's one where, like, from demo to final one sounds pretty different. And I was pretty torn on how I felt about it at first, but put a lot of work into trying to get it to sound kind of as grimy as I wanted it to. And I think in the end it came out pretty good.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm pretty happy with that one.
Where'd you grow up?
So I grew up in Bethesda, Maryland, right outside of Washington, D.C. Bethesda.
What was your childhood like?
It's interesting. So we moved, you know, it was pretty good. We moved to Belgium when I was 8 for 3 years.
Something probably for your dad, I would imagine.
Yeah, for my dad's job. My dad was, you know, he was working on a project. And I actually really liked Belgium. I know my sister had a hard time there. And my brother was so young. He's 7 years younger. I mean, actually, I think French was technically his first language, even though he barely speaks it now.
Is that the first language in Belgium is French?
So it's weird because in Belgium, there's like a north half that speaks Flemish, which is kind of a version of Dutch. And the southern half, which is close to France, speaks French. We were in Brussels, which speaks both, but I guess we're in the French part of it. So yeah, I was in a French school. When you're 8, it's great because, like, you know, your brain's a sponge. So I took tutoring. I think I was fluent in like a month or something like that, you know. It's just pure immersion. So I still speak French kind of badly. Like, if I'm around French people, it'll come back a little bit better. If I don't practice, obviously it's like anything else. I'm kind of rough, but I speak French because of that. Then we came back, and when I came back, I entered middle school.
Really difficult period of time.
Middle school is basically prison, but with less rules, I want to say. And I'd never once cared about my image or how I looked. And I remember, like,
this is back in Bethesda. You moved back to Bethesda.
Back in the Bethesda school system. Was it Pyle Middle School? I remember I got back, and I didn't realize this at the time, but I had a French accent, which I didn't even realize I had a French accent when I spoke English, because I'd speak English at home, but I had a French accent, so that was weird. Obviously, you know, like, it's like in those situations, like, middle schoolers are the worst because they have all these emotions and they're able to process things, but they still haven't developed that filter. So they just say everything.
I have 3 kids.
Like,
believe me,
I didn't care about how I dressed. I didn't care about how I looked. So I had a pretty stupid haircut, and my mom was like, just setting out clothes and I'd just wear them and I just didn't care. I'd never known to care. Like I had friends in Belgium and whatever, and all of a sudden, like I was just this reject. Like everybody hated me. And I didn't know why. I went to people. I was like people be mean to me. I'm like, you don't even know me. How do you hate me? I don't understand. And like, I just didn't have the capacity to understand. And I slowly started to piece it together. It's like, oh, it's the way I dress. Okay, I need to work on that. Like I remember in my yearbook, there's a kid who I think he was trying to be helpful. He was kind of a bully to me, but he was trying to be helpful too. And he wrote, he was like, hey man, try to dress cooler and act cooler next year. And it's like, I think he was trying to help.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
It's like, that's where my head was at. And I tried to do that. And I think around like 8th grade, I was starting to get the hang of it and like starting to be not a complete reject, but like definitely was a reject. Definitely didn't get like bullied like a ton, but definitely got bullied a little bit.
Right.
And then right as that was happening, my dad got another project and we moved to Zimbabwe for like a couple years.
Holy shit. What was that like?
So I actually really liked living in Zimbabwe. It was a fresh start. So then it was like I kind of gathered all my knowledge and I was able to make friends. And, I feel like I had a pretty good thing going there. And that's where our friend from Australia was visiting, and like I was introduced to like, heavier music. So it's getting into that kind of stuff. So that was, and I was like 12, 13. So a lot of changes are sort of happening. And it's just like that was kind of, it showed me how like a fresh start could be a good thing.
Yeah.
But then when we went back, I was back into the same school system with the same people. They're like, oh, that dude's back. He's weird. And I was weird again. So I was kind of a reject again, and kind of, like it was tough to make friends and whatever. And again, like as like time went by, it got a little bit easier, but yeah, it was interesting. It's definitely interesting. All in all, I can't say I regret any of that stuff or I'm angry about any of that stuff because it shaped who I am today. And I kind of like where things are at right now, so I can't be mad, but it was definitely not easy,
Right. Okay, so outside of that though, it sounds like things were pretty cool, which is kind of normal childhood,
Yeah, I came out all right.
Yeah. Very. Once you started playing, so you get your bar mitzvah and you get all your gear, you get your drum set and your $99 BC Rich Mockingbird. Are you playing metal right away? Like, what are you drawn to early on?
Yeah, like I think back then it was a lot of new metal and actually like I had some friends who were into like progressive stuff like Dream Theater, so I was exposed to that. And I think I had the ear for more extreme stuff, but it was like developing. So I remember hearing like Dillinger Escape Plan and being like, this is noise, and Meshuggah and be like, this is noise. But, eventually came to love both of those bands. But yeah, it's one of the things is I was actually a drummer first. And one of the huge advantages of being a drummer when you're jamming, with your friends, I had like a band in high school or whatever, which was terrible. We didn't, we just jam at my place. But guitar gear is very heavy, so the guitarists would just leave all the stuff. So I had access to like, a 7-string guitar that they had, which was great. I had access to all this gear that I didn't actually own. And he had like a 4-track tape recorder. So I was like messing around with a lot of that stuff then, just kind of, and actually in my school there was a class, it was called electronic music. It was really like just a recording class in high school. So it was a nice high school.
That's really weird.
It is weird, and that's where I learned about things like MIDI and recording and like the very basic stuff. That was a completely different age because it wasn't really talking about like recording on computers so much, but I learned how a little 4-track tape recorder works and how to mic stuff, and like just very basic stuff. Some synthesizer stuff. It was a lot of fun. I loved that class, and it definitely taught me some of the very basics of how all that stuff works.
Did you ever get lessons or like educated musically or?
So when I was 4, I think I showed a little aptitude for music. I was at like a friend's house playing piano. I think I figured out like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, something stupid like that. And my mom was like, we gotta get him piano lessons. I think my mom always wanted to play the violin, but came from a very poor family. So like you know, she always had this regret about not being able to play an instrument. So she's like, okay, but I hated piano, and I hated piano lessons. And my mom was so strict about it. It was like, if I wanted to watch 30 minutes of TV, I had to practice 30 minutes of piano, you know?
Oh my God. Yeah.
Um, and, you know, when I was younger, like when I was in Belgium, I remember I was taking like solfege, and I was getting like private lessons from like, you know, pretty good. I was trying to develop my chops a little bit, but I hate to say it, like I lost all of that. Like I don't know any music theory, like other than the basic stuff. Like I used to be able to sight read music for solfege like decently back then.
What's
Like
solfege? What is that?
where you like kind of like sing along to the notes, like you'll like be singing in a class. It's I don't know if that's a thing here as much, but like
it's not.
But all that's gone. And I think a very basic understanding of how to move around the piano is left. I'm not like a good pianist or anything like that. Like I used to be a lot better, and I just haven't kept it up. But I guess I am thankful that like it was nurtured to some degree, and that I can move around a piano a little bit. I'm not uncomfortable around a piano. I can jam on it, and I use it to write a lot of the time. But I'm not nearly as good as I should have been for the amount of work that was put in on other people's end, you know?
So you're basically like a self-taught
player? Yeah, for drums and guitar, like I think I took a couple drum lessons, but yeah, it was basically self-taught. But like, you know, self-taught in that I had friends showing me stuff all the time, you know? But yeah, I've never really done well with that. I've always been the kind of person I just like to get it, you know, screw the manual, let's figure it out. It's half the fun. So that's and I've always had a very strong ear. I think it's always made it very difficult for me to grasp the theoretical side of things because I'll always use the ear shortcut instead of looking at theory. So that's why I don't have, some people misunderstand and they think like I have like some aversion to theory. You know, I think theory is great, and it's, the more you know, the better it is. I just had a lot of trouble like picking it up because when I should be using sort of theoretical shortcuts, I just trust my ear instead. And it just makes it so it never really sticks. It's just, and also I've been able to write with like all this stuff is just so I can write. I just care about writing.
Yeah.
So if I felt like my ear was stopping me from writing, then maybe I'd look into it. But so far it's worked out pretty well for me. So I'm not too much of a need.
But you must have just put in a lot of neck time as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's just, but that's the fun, is like kind of just figuring it out, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Any low points or things that you had to, you know, suffer through that you're able to get out of?
Yeah, I mean, it's life all the time. There's a lot of low points. But I mean, anything in particular that you're digging for right now?
No, I'm just not digging for anything. Just anything you want to talk about. Any low points that were, or challenges that, you know, you struggled through and you somehow made it out, or, you know, anything like that.
I mean, it's always a struggle. Everything is a struggle, always, even still, you know. I struggle with a lot. I have a lot of complexes. I have, you know, there's ups and downs all the time. I think sometimes people look at like my Instagram, or they look at like some abridged version of my life, and they're like, "Oh, it must be great." But it's like, no, it's the same. It's the same problem. It's the same problem with more stuff, you know. The stuff doesn't do anything. It's like they always tell you, like you know, money doesn't change anything. It doesn't bring you happiness or whatever. The stuff doesn't help, you know.
Yeah.
It's fun in the moment. It's fun for creativity. But yeah, I've got all the same problems I've always had. Like probably gonna work that out with a therapist, you know.
Yeah, man.
before anything else, but I'll probably be dealing with it. But there's always ups and downs. But at the end of the day, like if you enjoy something, it's hopefully a net positive, and you keep doing it. And if it's not, then stop doing that. So
you actually seem pretty good about that. You seem I mean, I think to have at a young age a philosophy of, I want to do things that I enjoy, not from a narcissistic standpoint, but from a, hey, this will be more rewarding and I'll get more enjoyment out of this if I do this, whether it's playing video games or playing metal. I think that's to be honest, I think it's a kind of a gift, to be honest with you. I think to have that at a young age is whether it's instinctual or, you know, the way you were raised or whatever. I think that's pretty cool.
Well, I mean, it wasn't necessarily the way I was raised, because my dad, it's very much the story of like, you go to school, you work hard, you get good grades, go to a really good university, get a really good job. You know,
So your dad
you
was
get
more
that.
like of a conventional academic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Straight
yeah.
A student, went to London School of Economics, went to Harvard, you know, got a job at the World Bank, you know, and like
So for
slowly
him,
built.
that's natural. That's what you do.
Telling him like, hey, something about dropping out of college so I could pursue music is like, are you insane? And I remember when I was a kid, be like, Dad, why do I have to go to school? Like, I'm going to like, you know, first grade. Why do I have to go to school today? Oh, so that you could go to middle school, so that you can go to high school, so that you can get into a good university, so that you can then get a good job and buy a house for your wife and kids. And, you know, like, it was like, there was a plan, like from 5 years old, I could have told you what that plan was.
Right.
So, and why would I question it? So
Right.
then all of a sudden, like, I'm out of high school, I'm trying to get into a good school. I end up going to University of Toronto for God knows what, but they don't care. I'm like, I don't know what I want to do. They're like, that's fine. You can figure it out here while you pay us however many thousands a year figuring that out, you know?
Right. Right.
And I think a few things happen. I think one, you know, seeing things like Office Space, you know, where you see like cubicle, I was like, that terrifies me. I think there's few things on earth that scare me more than that. The other thing was like being home. You know, I came from like a neighborhood where like I honestly believed in high school, like homeless people were people that didn't graduate high school or didn't graduate college. You know,
Oh, wow.
you go to college, like it was one of those schools where they really push people to go to college so that their numbers would look good and whatever. You know, that they have like so many graduating and continuing to college. It's like one of those neighborhoods, and you just don't question it because your whole life you've been told what to do, and then all of a sudden they're not saying it outright, but now you can actually choose what you want to do, and it's a very jarring change. So after a couple of years in school of like basically wasting time and being like, you know, what am I going to do? Get a philosophy degree and teach philosophy for the rest of my life? Like, all I'm doing is skipping class and recording music at home, which makes me happy.
Right.
Like, maybe I should take a hint, you know? And I had a breakdown. It was a really dark period. There's a whole bunch of things that happened. It was a really dark period in my life. And I had a breakdown. I told my parents, you know, I was like, I can't do this anymore. And they're like, well, we don't want you to be lazy. You know, so if you think you're coming, I was like, I want to come home, you know? And they're like, if you think you're coming home, just sit on the couch, play video games. Like, that's not going to work. They're like, if you get a full-time job, we'll rent you a room in our house for a very fair rate for Bethesda.
Oh, this is old school shit. Holy crap. Wow.
Yeah. They're like, but you have to hold down a full-time job. And then they're like, whatever you choose to do in your free time is yours. If that happens to be music, great.
Right.
But you're holding down that job, you're paying us the rent, you know, because we didn't go through all this for you just to be a bum, you know?
Right.
I'm like, that honestly sounds great. And it was great.
Yeah.
You know, I got a job at Radio Shack. I was doing commission sales. I was good at it. And I figured out that, like, you know, hey, you sell well, you can work 4 days a week, 6-hour days, and make just as much as someone else doing a 9 to 5.
Right.
So I had more time for music. I was writing music in like all my free time. It's always in. That's where Periphery started, basically.
Wow. Man, that's a great story. I give you a lot of credit, man. I know you. Wow.
I was really happy. I went from being like miserable.
Yeah.
So when you say like, it was like, I would almost say that's the only thing I could do. Like the thought of continuing on the other.
I get that. Yeah.
It was like, I'm going to be miserable. I want to kill myself if I do that.
But
I would rather be like poor and working some sales job and doing music in my free time 10 times happier. It was just, that was like one of the best moments. I just felt like I was finally in control of my destiny. And I remember saying, like, if I make enough just to be able to make music and go on a tour eventually, like that will be great. I don't even mind working because I like my job. I actually like doing sales, you know? So it was like, I was in a good place and I was just writing all the time. And you know, I made a computer. I built a computer that could record on. It was finally that age where you could do it. So I was like self-sufficient. I was doing my own demos. I was doing everything, trying to get better at mixing, trying to get the hang of producing and all that. I just, for once in my life, it just felt like I was in charge of my own destiny. And that was just so refreshing. And like, I felt like no one had told me that I could do that, you know?
Right. But you know what? That's why I think it's such a good story, because nobody gave you sort of like, a lot of times in life, we need permission for stuff.
Yeah. And well, up until that point, I needed permission for everything.
But you did all that. You kind of like said, hey, I'm going to throw this is totally against everything that's been instilled in me, but it really feels good for me. You know, from
Yep.
not from a narcissistic place, from like an you know, an place of soulful integrity. Yeah. Yeah.
It was desperation. I needed anything else. I needed
Yeah.
anything. I hated school. I hated the path I was on. I hated what I was like, why is this a thing? And I was meeting people who got their degrees. Let's say they got in like, you know, they want to be a journalist and they got like an English, you know, like the master's in English.
An
And they're like,
English
I'm like,
lit
what do you
master.
do? And then they're like, yeah, I work at a restaurant. I'm like, why? It's because you can't find jobs. I'm like, wait, so you went and spent all that money and you're like, you got something you're passionate about and you don't even have your job. I'm like, that sounds like the music industry. It's like, if I'm going to roll the dice on something, I might as well roll it on something I actually give a shit about. I'm going to be up against people who, if I'm doing like philosophy or political science, like on a whim, I'm against people who like legitimately love it and live and breathe it. How am I going to stand a chance against them? Why don't I bet on myself in something I actually give a shit about? So it was a move of desperation. It really was.
Yeah, but
everything.
but you move to a positive place.
Oh yeah.
Lots of times when people are desperate, they do desperate things that are not, most of the time, I would say probably when people are I'm at my last rope or what, it's hard to throw that Hail Mary pass for a lot of people.
Yeah, but this is where I got to thank my parents. You know, I always say my parents are supportive, but not in the way, some people are like, oh, he's just a rich kid from Bethesda. His parents gave him everything. I'm like, well, they didn't give me money. They gave me advice and they gave me sort of ethics and like my dad always taught me the value of a dollar and how not to be frivolous with the way that you spend it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So like you learn how to manage your money. I've never had to be that broke because I've always been able to budget, you know? And rather than them just giving me money and giving me a place to stay, they say you're going to earn it.
No, I don't have a problem with what they did. I think I actually respect them for that because
I think that's a better way. It instilled the value of like, you got to work for it.
We had skin in the game.
And you know, if ever, I remember when we were, when we were starting the band, we needed to get money for a van and we couldn't afford a van. And none of us could get a personal loan because, you know, why would any bank give us a personal loan? My dad was like, okay, well, I'll give you a personal loan, but you're going to give me the same rate that a bank would get. He's like, I'm not giving you free money. You know, he's like, I'm just giving you the opportunity to loan money.
But that's cool.
But it's like that, I think is the right approach. Because what he could have done is be like, here's money for a van, go get it. But no, we paid him back every cent with interest, you know, and that was, I think, the better approach because it just gave us the opportunity to get something that the real world could have given us, but didn't want to give us.
No, I think I have no problem. I think that's very fair and responsible. And in this way, you were learning as you were going along about what the real world is like. And it's not like he was charging you 5 times, like, hey, I'm going to charge you loan shark rates. You know, it was really fair. He just gave you the opportunity.
This is the rate that a bank would give you, but they won't approve you for the loan because
I'll approve you.
Paid off. I'll be the bank.
But knowing your dad was an economist, I'm sure he like gave you a full-blown amortization.
Oh, we had a schedule and everything.
Yeah.
We had an amortization schedule and everything.
Right. I knew that. Man, that's a really good story. Thank you for sharing it. That's really cool. I give you a lot of credit, probably more than you give yourself. You should give yourself more credit because I think you made some pretty good decisions in a pretty difficult time there, man.
I never really thought of it that way.
Yeah,
but
I think you did.
I mean, it was just enough's enough at a certain point, you know. And it was definitely a scary sort of leap of faith, but I had to do something, man. I knew that like continuing down where I was going was just going to be the worst.
Have you written any songs about like any aspect of this?
No, and this is interesting. I don't write lyrics, so like I don't have like the same sort of emotional attachment to songs, you know.
Yeah.
If I write lyrics, then yeah, it would be a good outlet for that. But like, yeah, I've never been much for.
Or even music. You haven't written any music reflecting.
I never write music in that context. I just write what sounds cool. It's never like I express this or express that. Really. That's not. I think the only times I've ever done that has been when I've been commissioned to do something for something, and it's
like the video game stuff.
Like, but yeah, exactly. That's where like, oh, it has to fit this, but like naturally, I just sort of write, and it's more just writing.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. Really interesting, man.
I,
Thank
I
you.
wish I wish I could. I know some people do that. They're like, "Oh, I'm working out this problem or whatever." I wish I was a vocalist and a lyricist, because maybe it'd be very good therapy for me. But I just have no natural aptitude for it, and I don't enjoy doing things I'm bad at. So
Hey, well, good for you, man. Whatever you're doing is working. Honestly, I give you credit. Seriously.
Oh, thanks,
Let's talk about. I know you got a signature guitar. What's your go-to guitar right now, and what other two guitars would round out your top three? I'm talking about just in the natural order of, hey, this is the one I like playing, number one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my signature guitar was designed to be that. Spent 3 years designing the first prototype, and I have like an insane collection of guitars. That was kind of and Jackson was always cool about like respecting that. They're like, we know you got your collection, but it's probably in your best interest for you to play the thing you sell. And I was like, well, and I was like, well, then we need to make my favorite guitar.
Yeah, right. Totally.
And I think, like, yeah, let's try to get it out for NAMM, which was like 8 months later. And like 3 years later, we were done, because I was like, no, it's got to be perfect. We've since iterated on it. So I actually, it's on the floor.
Awesome. Yeah, I saw that laying there. I was hoping.
It's actually a prototype. This is not even the final one. But yeah, this is,
nice. This is like walnut?
No, that's flame maple. It's just stained amber tiger eye. It's got this is the USA. It's like the top dog. It's got a flame maple fretboard, roasted maple, and a roasted maple neck.
Mm.
And this one's got a mahogany body. It's just very, very classy instrument, very versatile. It's got my signature bare knuckles in it.
Is that 7 or 6 string? I can't.
That's a 6, but I also have a 7.
And what is that called? The Misha Mansoor model, or
the Jackson Juggernaut? And actually, something I moved to recently is
that's a pretty color, man.
Matte Ferrari red, or satin Ferrari red.
Really pretty color, man. So that's a 7 string or an 8 string?
This is a 7. So I'm only doing 6s and 7s. That's mainly what I play. Yeah, you won't actually find my name anywhere on these guitars. It's something that we moved to recently. So, I think they
really. I'm surprised they agreed to that.
I think they're fine with it. Like,
yeah, here's our Misha Mansoor guitar. Well, how do I know?
the people who care will already know it's my guitar.
Yeah,
and then the people who don't know will just think it's a guitar.
Right.
So it'll just stand on the merits of its own quality, hopefully. So.
And you said bare knuckle pickups in there?
Yep. The bare knuckle Juggernaut. They're also, well, actually, the first guitar I showed you had the Juggernaut set, which is the more sort of all-rounder, jack of all trades, surgical knife kind of set. And then the red guitar has the Ragnaroks, which are the super aggressive set. That's actually featured more on Periphery 4, because it's a very aggressive album. So
Ragnarok, that's like from the Fantastic Four, right?
Yeah, well, it's like Norse mythology. It's like Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, not.
But this came out before all that. Came out after Norse mythology, but before Thor Ragnarok. So
that's cool, man. That's a beautiful color, man. That Ferrari red, that is really cool.
Oh yeah, I do love Ferrari red. So.
Well, what's number 3?
So actually, yeah, I'll show you number 3. This is a really, really cool guitar. I love this one. So I told Jackson I wanted because I love Strats and Tellies, like Relic Strats and Telly. So this looks like a Relic Strat, but it's got a Ragnarok set. This is a sleeper. Like, this thing looks like kind of like a dad rock guitar, but it is a shredder. It's got this gorgeous.
That's pretty.
Maple neck,
That's really pretty.
And the Fender Custom Shop guys did the Relic job on this, which I absolutely love.
Eggshell blue, is that what they call that, or Daphne blue?
This is Daphne blue, I believe. Yeah,
really
Daphne
pretty.
Blue. And I had them do it in nitro so that they could, relic it all nice. It's
very cool color, man.
Relicking is a very controversial thing, but I absolutely love it.
No, man, it's if you like it, it's like ice cream, man. You like it or you don't. It's like, to me, passing a judgment on that is like passing a judgment on, like, those guys who like chocolate. I mean, I don't get
exactly
that. Whatever. It's,
but I love Relic. I love Relic guitars. So that's that would definitely be.
No, I think they look cool, man. When I first got hip to them, I was kind of like one of those guys. I was like, man, it doesn't seem real. And I'm like, it's art. What do you mean it doesn't seem real? Whatever someone wants to get, what the hell? You know, I just had like a meeting with myself because I saw so many. I'm like, shit, they look great. Something,
Yeah.
they look
I
real.
mean, the shop guitars, I just love them. Where's the? I've got this one here. This Strat. This is kind of, this. I think this was my first Fender custom shop.
Fiesta Red. Oh no, is that Fiesta Red or I can't? Yeah, it looks Fiesta.
Yeah, no, this is. I think this is Fiesta Red.
Yeah,
it's kind of British. And one thing I love, people don't realize this, is the Relic ones. They end up sanding down the neck, so it's not painted, which I love. I hate like gloss necks or whatever, or like not painted but finished. But this is like raw as a result, and this thing shreds, man. So I've got a telly as well.
Very cool, man.
Yeah, I'm just a big fan. I'm a big fan both in how they look and also on a practical note. They actually play the way I like. So,
well, dude, Jackson should be thrilled with you. I asked you for your top 3. You said a Jackson. So check the box for the
design. I know it sounds like a cop out, but it's by design because I have guitars that I've since sold because the goal was to make my favorite guitar. You know,
that's awesome. Doesn't sound like a cop out.
They really delivered. I love those guys for putting up with me because I put them through hell.
Anybody that influenced your playing that people would be surprised to hear?
I mean, directly influencing my playing, I'd say to begin with was like John Petrucci, Guthrie Govan, and Alan Holdsworth. Those are very clear influence. Maybe something that like people don't realize is like Nobuo Uematsu from the Final Fantasy VII series. He's like a composer, but like that's a very big influence. Final Fantasy VII like kind of changed my life. Like that was like both gaming wise and musically. Been very heavy. That composer is brilliant composer. And like I definitely draw a lot of influence from him. So even though he doesn't play guitar, his influence has found his way into my guitar playing for sure.
That's cool, man. Who are some players that you've really enjoyed jamming with guitar wise?
Man, I'm bad at this. There's a lot. There's so many. The thing is, I'm not actually a very good guitar player, and I know all these like insane guitar players. You know what's funny is like Mike Dawes. Like I know him as like a dude that we've hung out on tour. Like we met him on tour. We meet him in the most random places.
Okay, what? You toured with Mike?
Like, no. Like he's on tour, and we happen to be close, and we go and hang out.
Okay.
And like, I realized I hadn't even seen him play guitar till like recently. We've just been like buddies.
Yeah.
Like that dude's insane.
Yeah, he is
like
insane.
Insane guitarist. Yeah. I'm just like, I don't even play this instrument, you know? Like
he's so mellow. Like, he's like ultra. He's just a nice guy. Ultra.
We don't talk about music because we just hang out. He's just a great hang.
Yeah.
And then we got guitars one time. I was like, oh my god, he's a ridiculous guitar, like ridiculous. So it was fun jamming with him. Actually, growing up in DC, there was this guy who lived 10 minutes down the street from me who, you know, I always heard like this dude like plays a 7-string and he's insane. It's this guy Tosin Abasi. And like we were both like super into Meshuggah, and I think we met up eventually because we're like, oh, you like Meshuggah? I like Meshuggah too, whatever. Started hanging out. I was like, dude, you're insane. And we started like that, and that's why I ended up producing the first Animals as Leaders record.
Right.
Just my buddy's record. But he's always sitting with him is just nuts. He's on a different plane of existence when it comes to creativity. He's probably one of the most creative guitarists or musicians I've ever met. You know,
wow, that's pretty dynamic.
There's God, I'm bad at this because I'm gonna forget everybody, but just everywhere you look, we try to take out bands that are just filled with musicians that are 10 times better than us because it's free lessons. You know?
That's a great way to look at it.
Free inspiration. You see them live, you're like, Jesus Christ, we got to step up our game. Then you jam with them backstage, and you're just learning stuff, and it's like, okay, sweet, thanks for the guitar lesson,
man.
So in a way, I say I'm self-taught, but this is what I'm saying. I just hang around people that are sick and try to absorb whatever I can.
Top 3 Desert Island discs, no particular order, and just for this moment.
Oh man. Let's go with Insides by John Hopkins. Let's go with, what am I listening to? I don't know. Let's go Mysterium by Hammock, and Chaos Fear by Meshuggah. Let's just go with that. That'd be pretty good.
I'm glad you said one where I've at least heard of the band.
Yeah. The other two are like chill and electronic and like.
It's a university. Wait a minute. What the hell?
Well, the thing
Or
is,
that's
like,
a hospital, isn't it?
I don't listen to metal. I really just don't listen to metal anymore. When you play it all the time and you're around it all the time, it's like, you want to listen to chill stuff, you know?
Yeah,
So
totally get it, man. Which is funny because
that's
Mike Dawes does listen to some hard stuff, and he plays acoustic.
well, because he's around chill music all the time, and he's a metalhead, you know?
Yeah.
He's not overexposed like we are.
What like you seem totally nonplussed by any of the celebrity surrounding you. What is like the most difficult thing about being, and I hate to use this word because it's not you, but being in the limelight, you know, like from a social standpoint, like you seem totally
I'm not. And I remember my dad told me really early on, I was like, Dad, I want to be rich and famous. He's like, no, you don't. You want to be rich, but you don't want to be famous.
right.
You'll be miserable. And like, I get like little tastes of it now and then, like, you know, at shows, but it's non-invasive I live a normal life.
Yeah.
It's great. You know, like, and I have a group of friends that aren't musicians and they're just into cars because that's all I care about these days. Like, I get to have a normal group of friends where I'm just, you know, like kind of just another dude, you know, right. And like,
which is what you should be with your friends.
Yeah. And I'd say I don't, you know, I've seen what actual celebrities go through, and I wouldn't wish that on anyone. And I don't want that I don't ever want that. So I'm just trying to keep my life as normal as possible. At shows, you know, obviously it's a little different, and it can be overwhelming because I like my personal space, and I don't like strangers necessarily. But
so how do you balance that? Because you're getting, I mean, I'm sure it's just a barrage of.
I just hang out backstage. You know, I don't know. I'm okay with meeting people in contexts where I'm like ready for it. Like,
yeah.
You know, because I have to present a version of myself. I have to present a presentable version of myself.
Sure.
Does not, you know, because people have these expectations.
Yeah, man, that's horrible. Yeah.
Unrealistic expectations of you, and you're not a human being anymore. So you have to be that. And you don't the point either, because it's just easier to present them with a version of you that's on and charming and just how you doing.
To think about all that stuff is like,
I'm a human being too, and I also have bad days, and some days I'm just tired and I don't want to meet anybody.
Yeah,
you know. But you know, we've actually started to take it easier on the meet and greet stuff too, because it's just very exhausting sometimes. And I don't know. I want those interactions to be genuine. I don't want to like do those and be like, oh man, here we go again. You know, it's just not worth it.
Yeah.
Like, even if we make less money, like I just want, because people are spending their hard-earned money, and it's not cheap.
No.
So I don't want it to be disingenuous. If people are doing that, I want it to be like kind of a thing where I'm actually excited. And there are times I'm excited, but I think we did it a lot, and I'm personally kind of tired of it. I think I need a bit of a break.
Yeah. Good.
You know, if we might throw a couple here or there, so I can still be excited about it, and the guys can be still excited about it. But that's the truth. You know, that's the truth of the matters. You have to have these strategic things. You know, when we go to NAMM, I think that's like probably the closest to what it feels like to be like a celebrity, because there, you know, people tend to know me, and it's honestly overwhelming. It gives me anxiety. It stresses me out. But you know, it also comes with the territory, so you just deal with it. It's not a big deal.
You're talking about LA NAMM, Winter NAMM.
Yep. Yeah, I'm in the summer NAMM. Winter NAMM's it's a clusterfuck.
Yeah, man, it's like a lot of guys. A lot of guys that I've interviewed, I'm buddies with, and they're like, "Man, come to NAMM." I'm like, man, it's too much chaos.
It's one of the most tiring things you'll ever do. You know, and I have to go. I have to go every year because I always have products and stuff to promote and people to meet, and is just actually a very good place to get business handled.
Yeah.
So like I mentally prepare for it a week in advance. It's just exhausting. And it's a lot of people, my voice is gone after the second day, and I'm like, I'm bathing in Purell, and like, it's just a thing.
I'm bathing in Purell.
It's part of the job. It's part of the job. You just suck it up and do it,
I hear you, man. Hey, tough question. What do you like most about yourself?
Ooh, that is a tough one. I don't know. Come back to me when I'm in a better headspace. Not a whole lot right now. I don't like a whole lot about myself right now.
Flip side, tell me something that you'd like to change.
Everything. I'd like to be better at art. I'd like to be a better musician. I'd like to be a better businessman. I'd like to be smarter. I'd like to be more charming and more personable. I'd like to be nicer to people. I'd like to.
Oh my God.
I'd like to get a therapist again, because I need
get a therapist, man. They're helpful, man.
They've been helpful through my lives.
I
just need time to get around to it, but like I need to like get on that. Like
that's an important phone call, man. It was for me.
There's a lot I'm working. There's a lot I'm working on. The stuff I'm working on is what I focus on.
Good for you, man.
The stuff I've done doesn't matter in a way. It's just like it's done.
Right.
Let's work on stuff.
Right. I totally do get that.
Let's fix this. This is a mess. Let's fix this.
Well, you'll always be a work in progress, man.
Yeah.
Everybody is. I mean,
I've accepted this, but it doesn't mean that I can't stop working at it.
Yeah, man.
So
you have any non-musical superpowers?
I don't have any superpowers. I feel like I'm undeserving of anything I have, because I'm just like, I don't really have anything. But I don't know.
Dude, I'm gonna find you a therapist soon if you don't
get.
Yeah,
right. but it's fine, because like there's things I do that I enjoy, even though I'm not good at them. I don't think I'm particularly good at music, but I really, really enjoy making music. I don't think I'm particularly good at video games, but I really enjoy playing video games. I want to get better at driving. I'm all about cars now, and I want to get better at that. So that's something but it's not a superpower. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's good that you at least give yourself that wiggle room. Like, I'm not good at this, but I enjoy it. Because a lot of people were like, I'm not good at this, for whatever good means, whatever their, because everybody's standard of good is different. But I can't do it until I'm good, whatever good means, So at least.
Well, I worry about a lot of stuff, but then there's things I just enjoy, despite the fact that I'm not good. It's just I just enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah, well, that's what life's about.
Those things that hang on to them. So,
man, that's what life's about.
I think I have superpowers with anything. I'm just kind of figuring it out.
2 more questions, man, and I really appreciate your candor and being so cool and open, and your time. Talk about, they're both gonna be tough questions. I'll tell you right now.
Good, tough questions. I love them.
I could ask you about your string gauge if you'd like.
I will end this call.
Respect. Talk about a specific experience that changed your life or changed the way you think about things.
Like in terms of music, or in terms of
whatever comes to mind, whatever you feel like sharing, man.
I don't know. Again, it's like one of those things. It's like, what was a game changer? This is like a lot of little things, like like discovering sort of heavy music. I remember like getting Meshuggah was like a big one for me. Meshuggah is a huge influence of mine. I remember being introduced to them. I think I was telling someone like, I dug like Fear Factory and Slipknot, and they're like, you should check out Meshuggah. Like, it's like that, but crazier. I'm like, really? Like, yeah, it's like the drummer's even better than those guys. I was like, what? All right, I gotta go check this out. I checked out something off of Chaosphere, and I was like, this is noise. This is just noise and random. Like, anyone can do this. And I was just mad. I was like, why is this band And you know, I look it up. People like would revere this band. I'm like, why? It made me mad that people like this band because I was just like, I can make random noise. Like, fuck this band.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was jamming with this jazz bassist. We just kind of jammed for fun, and he knew his metal. So I was like, yeah, man, you ever heard this band Meshuggah? It's like, Meshuggah, isn't that band that just plays in 4/4? And I'm like, no, you must be thinking of someone else. This is like random noise. It's like, you know, definitely not 4/4. He's like, no, that's the thing. It's like, it's not. It sounds like it's not 4/4, but it's all 4/4. I was like, what? I went back and listened, and I was like, like, this is genius. This is incredible. Like, this stuff I thought was noise and chaos is actually extremely well thought out, and there's a pattern, and you have to figure it out. And like, and that was a pretty big moment for me. That was like musically, like I just became obsessed with Meshuggah after that.
That's really cool, man. That's like,
yeah, that's kind of a fun one. Maybe some advice that I got. I forget who gave me this advice. It's always stuck with me. It's one of these things that actually always stuck with me. I still think about, and it's kind of how Periphery works, which is write the music you want to write, but play the music fans want to hear. And that's a very careful balance. Because it's like, you know, like, what are you selling out or whatever? It's like, I don't care about any of that stuff anyways, but we write the music we want to write. We write exactly what we want, you know? And even in our record deal on Sumerian, we had complete creative control. So there was no one telling us what to do. But then when it comes to playing live, we gauge the crowd reaction and participation and all that. And that's what we determine. You know, we play stuff that I'm not that stoked about playing, but that gets a better reaction over stuff that we want to play that gets a lesser reaction, you know? And
so
a lot
like
of people,
flexible set list.
Yeah, we basically just, it's just been a thing over several tours, just seeing what songs work, what songs don't, and just kind of tuning it to that.
That's really cool.
Yeah, play or write the music you want to write, but play what the fans want to hear.
Who told you that? If you can.
Don't remember. Whoever you are, thanks, because you changed my life.
And last question, but you might have answered this. Toughest decision you had to make or most difficult thing you had to do?
Toughest decision I had to make. I mean, like, you know, quitting school and all that, and that was that comes to mind. That was scary. Something that was kind of scary as well is that I moved from DC after all these years to Dallas, Texas.
Is that where you live now?
That's where I'm right now.
Oh, that's cool, man.
I needed to change of pace. It was like it was a big shift in my life, and kind of needed a change of pace. And I actually really like it down here.
Good for you, man. Yeah, man. It's some great music.
But that was scary. And right after I moved, you know, had a bunch of obligations. Like, didn't even unpack for like months. Didn't meet people here for months, you know. And then once I did that, then I started to really love it here. But
that's great, man.
Kind of a tough move. So yeah, like maybe something like that. But it was something that also in the back of my mind, I was like, well, it sucks, you know. I'll move back. Like, it'll be a huge waste of money, but like, hey, life lesson learned.
Yeah,
But in the other way, it was like kind of like, no, like a change like that. If anyone's listening or you know can relate to that, is like kind of considering it, like, and you're kind of wondering if where you live is not right for you. Even though on paper, a lot of things, you know, DC had a lot of things going for me. It's a cool area. Like, most of my family lives there. You know, I was like 20 minutes from my parents, which was nice. We'd meet up weekly for Shabbat, you know, like, so it was like, that's something I was really afraid to lose.
Right.
And, you know, I do miss those guys. But you know, I can see them and I talk to them regularly. So overall, the move was worth it. And if you're thinking about that, if you're considering it, like, and you found someplace like, oh, it could be cool, maybe take the jump, because the difference it made was pretty profound, actually. Like, I needed that.
Good for you.
And I didn't, but it was definitely scary thing to do. Without
Dude,
doubt.
I don't think you give yourself enough credit, man. I think you've done a lot of really cool things, man. And I think when I opened the call before we even started recording, I said, man, you really impressed me with all the stuff you've done. So you're hard on yourself, but I think you've done a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, I know I'm hard on myself, but it also doesn't matter if I think I'm hard on. Like, so what? Like, that doesn't mean, it's like I have the logical side of my brain that can rationalize everything all day long. And it just feels what it feels, and it can't be rationalized away. So yes, I mean, I know I'm hard on myself, but it doesn't change the fact that I'm going to continue to be hard on myself.
Well, you might change. Let me tell you, you might change.
Maybe, but I need the motivator too. I like being hard on myself. Maybe it keeps me. I told you, like, I feel like I'm lazy. I feel like I don't do enough, and I feel like I could work harder. And I see people working harder than me. I see other people doing more, and I'm like, why am I not doing more? Why am I being a lazy piece of shit right now? So it's definitely complex, but it keeps me on my toes. It keeps me working, which I like.
Well, man, I have a ton of respect for you professionally, musically, and I think you have your shit together for a guy who's your age. And I sound like an old man saying that, but I'm okay with that because I'm not telling the truth. Let me tell people a couple of things you got going. Thank you very much, man. You've been really cool and to talk to, really open and really generous. Thank you. Same here. So first of all, the new Periphery album, Hail Stand, Periphery 4, great record. Check it out. Misha is going to be, and the band is touring US and Europe. So go on the Periphery webpage and you can see all that. Periphery is Periphery. Misha's also got some clinics coming up, and he will be posting those on Instagram and Facebook. His Facebook is Misha Mansoor, and Instagram it's at Misha Periphery, and same thing with Twitter. Horizon Devices, if you are interested in checking out the pedals that Misha's developed, go on there and get yourself some. Get Good Drums. Is that getgooddrums.com?
Yep, getgooddrums.com.
Get you some good drums. Getgooddrums.com. It's drum loops. And man,
it's drum software. It's like
drum software. Sorry about that.
Programming drums. Basically, what we demo, and you can do finished recordings with it. What we do is we just record in the studio and then turn it into a sample library. So it's awesome. You could get our sounds.
And signature guitar Jackson, signature amp of Peavey, and signature pickups with bare knuckles. And man, just talk about, you said 3 Dot Recordings, which is your record label, just signed their first outside act.
Yeah, Infinity Shred. So that's something we've been working on for a while. We're able to announce it now because we have pre-orders going up. Awesome. They're a band that we've been friends with for a while. We took them out on tour. Very different style of music. It's like kind of electronic indie stuff, but like we just really dig it. And again, it's the purpose of our labels, just help out our friends, so we're just stoked to be able to help our friends put out a record.
Awesome. And where are they out of? Are they out of the East Coast?
They're out of New York. Yeah, they're out of New York.
Very cool. So, and does 3 Dot Recordings have a website? Yeah,
it's well, the store is like store.3dotrecordings.com. I think it's just 3dotrecordings.com. I really should know this stuff.
You should know this stuff, man. Go to 3 Dot Recordings.
Google it.
Go on Google.
It'll take you there.
Some close version of 3dotrecordings.com, and it's not
three
like
as in
dot.
The number.
Yeah. Right. Number 3 DOT Recordings. And then you can keep up to date with what's going on with Misha and the rest of the guys and their label. Dude, anything else I missed, or any final words of wisdom?
No, that's about it. Everyone out there, just keep your head up, keep at it. You're doing great. I think you're awesome.
Likewise, man. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this interview, please share it on your social media channels. We appreciate your support. Check out Misha Mansoor, all his music, and support Periphery. Come see them on tour. Please, what is that? When you wash your hands before you meet him back at the VIP, he's going to feel better.
Yeah. Or just bring Purell with you,
Bring Purell. My wife does.
As I get older. Yeah.
And, make sure you go to everyonelovesguitar.com. Sign up to get on our newsletter list so you and I can connect. And most important, remember that happiness is a choice. So choose wisely. Be nice. Go play your guitar and have fun. Till next time, peace and love, everybody. I'm out. Thank you, Misha.
Thanks, man.